welcome to the 7th episode of Vaultside, hosted by Citizens for Sound Money. My name is Rhyno. I'm the chair of Citizens for Sound Money. We are a nonprofit in the sound money space that encourages the use of sound money and protects people's rights to do so. Please go to our website, become a member, follow us on social media for Sound Money. And with that as well, we would like to encourage you to become a pioneer member with C4SM. Today's episode, the questions were put together by the community and associated members of the Kinesis Forum in order to get us the best quality information for the community. And then with that today, the episode will be facilitated by our Executive Director, Daniel Diaz. And with that, Daniel, I'd like to have you take it away and enjoy this episode.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rhyno. All right, guys. Well, thank you for coming on for another Vaultside. Tom, welcome back to the Vaultside. It's been a little bit of time, and I see you're not where you're normally at. Where are you right now?
So, yeah, we're currently on the road at the moment, or at least Eric and I are in Bermuda. We've got some really interesting stuff happening here. You guys, the community, will no doubt find out more about it in due course. And I'm happy to touch on it a little bit from a high level throughout the course of this. But on the road in Bermuda, I tried to set up out on the porch before to show the beautiful view out to the harbour, etc. Lighting, sound, internet was no good, so coming to you from the kitchen here. So firing away, who we have on the call, we got Eric Mayne, our Chief Strategy Officer and President, Andy Maguire, Director, and Jai Bifulco, our Chief Commercial Officer. So not the full team, just us tuning in, that the executive committee on the relevant time zone here. So happy to fire away from here, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. We, as Rhyno mentioned, we have quite a few questions that we've compiled, and one of the first things that people have asked about is the new Currency One suite. I mean, it's phenomenal. We now have C1 USD paired with multiple fiat currencies, all the cryptocurrency pairs, and it helps provide easier on and off ramps for customers. Can you tell us a little bit more about why people had to update their banking details? What's going on with the European Union with implementing the Currency One suites, and any other rollouts for the Currency One?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, and thanks for that. So in getting onto Currency One, I think for everyone to sort of understand where all of that fits in, I think I sort of need to actually provide a bit of a high-level update where we are. I know that it's been a little while since we did the last Vaultside. I was reminded by Yachiki earlier, it's going back to August. So there's been a bit of water under the bridge since then, and we've been furiously working away behind the scenes. So let me just provide a bit of a high-level overview, because positioning of the actual company and the corporate brand and everything comes into play here. So what Kinesis is doing currently is we're furiously building out the platform and a broader ecosystem, a broader decentralized ecosystem, to effectively position ourselves as like leading asset-backed digital currency, sound money, real world asset solution, to be a real world asset solution provider in the space. So, we've obviously launched gold and silver tokens that goes back a number of years since we launched them in 2019. And, we're one of the largest in the space. We're the largest in the silver space. And that's even sort of just, being platform centric without really pushing out. And we've just started now into the DeFi world, into the central exchange world, but then also the decentralized exchange and the DeFi world in its entirety, with all the tools and everything like that come with the DeFi world. So we've got gold and silver. We've now got our stablecoin suite. I think there's 7. Well, actually, there were 7 stablecoins. I think we're now up to 10. 10, and we've got the Brazilian real coming as well, but there's some very specific nuances there that we're navigating through with Brazil. So there's plenty of stable coins. There's been a lot of work that's been done on C1, which I want to drill into, but let me come back to that because there's some real exciting stuff happening there, but there's a lot of granular detail. So, but as I mentioned, building ourselves out as a asset-backed digital currency, real-world asset leader in the space. So we've actually now expanded our view to be able to provide from a platform perspective, but then also out into the DeFi world, other different asset-backed digital currencies. So looking at the broader commodity complex, looking at base commodities, energy-related commodities, soft commodities. In fact, we have had a very large project, and I'm really excited to basically be telling everyone for the first time here that we will be launching. It's very soon. It's this quarter. We're hoping to get it out this month. Where it's built. We're looking for final legal sign-off from it because it's a big project. There's been a lot of legal work and regulatory work go into it, and there's a number of different jurisdictional touch points. And that's basically we're launching this Kinesis commodity coin suite. So it's 23 commodity coins or tokens. All right. So like I said, across base commodities, energy, and soft. So you've got, agri commodities in there, energy, and, the usual suspects like copper, nickel, tin, zinc, that sort of thing. So that gives you a bit of an idea on sort of where we're going, and then building it into the wholesale money side with the interfacing into core legacy systems. We've been obviously continuing to do a lot of work as far as integrating into the banks, and also, we've had real direct partnership maneuvering into the banking space as well. And so hence one of the reasons why we're here in Bermuda. So that's underway. Jai can provide a really great update on the banking side because we go through our ups and downs there, but the whole thing is actually building out something that's concrete and solid and redundant in the sense of we've got plan A, B, C, D for redundancy backup, and that actually looks like coming through right now. So Jai has some really great stuff there. We have some really great stuff, and Eric and I are working away on locking this down forever by actually taking control of institutions in the space that provide these services to the ecosystem. And it's really, really, really great services like that will be like value added above anything that you'll actually see in the space, both, personal banking, business banking, and then the way that the actual digital assets can be, leveraged. It's extraordinarily powerful. So anyway, we can go into further detail on all of that. We also just as far as what is coming down the line, and I know that we've got a bit to sort of cover off on. One thing as well is I can touch on what we've been speaking about now with regards to Latin American public-private partnership, because I'm really pleased to advise everybody it's done. Yay! It's done. Eric and I are looking to. Well, I was hoping to get it done on this trip. We're trying to sync up with the general manager of this national / quasi central bank of this Latin American nation to just do the ceremonial sort of signing of it all. And once all that's done and we agree on timing around going public, then we will make all of that known. But it'll be like an official public release, and it's a big deal. It's a really big deal because we've seen all the projections as far as anticipated sort of volume that. This deal is very different to Indonesia, and Eric will provide an update on Indonesia, but there's really exciting stuff actually happening out in Indonesia as well. But it's different in the sense that it's being pushed out through, call it the central bank and monetary authority within this nation. Major banking jurisdiction, they've got something like 800 banks in this jurisdiction, and like we've met a bunch of but basically all the big banks, and it's like, well, if the monetary authorities say it's a go, then it's a go, and we're on. And then that will provide like an extremely strong precedent to then leverage throughout basically the world, but in particular that particular region as well. It will be really, really strong. So there's that side of it, which Eric can also provide a bit of insight there. He's been doing some great work in building that out. Something else. Now, we are always wanting to sort of stay ahead of the game as far as, product development, particularly, as it pertains to sound money, as it pertains to gold and silver-backed digital currencies. So we have something really cool coming in Q3 as well. Call it an earning program. And this will provide enhanced yields for gold and silver, and as well as for the other digital assets in our system. And everything will be explained on how that actually operates. But some things that we do in our broader group as far as gold trading, basically it's a form of arbitrage trading where you're effectively buying gold, silver at lower prices in certain jurisdictions and then selling them into for trading hubs at higher prices. It's effectively moving the physical product around. So taking it from mine site, selling it into trading centers at a higher price. We want to provide that benefit to our users. We've been doing institutional deals on this side because it is something quite profound that we've built out, and we want to provide certainly an enhanced benefit on the yield side that will also not just hold benefit holders, but it'll be plugged into their component plugged into the fee pool. And Eric's also done some good work there with certain mines and that sort of thing as well. So that is coming. It requires like effectively a pledging of the assets. So and a certain like duration of the asset which is pledged. So but we can that's going to be like an extreme enhancing to the actual yield side, but also provide the potential. Well, it'll provide yields on other digital assets as well. So that's a Q3 thing. As we roll out, obviously, the commodity coins this quarter, then that will be another big project coming into Q3. So anyway, I'm also skipping over a lot. There's more on the banking side. I'm turning on UK, and that's been a long time coming and getting all the reg side sorted there. And so like UK users are going to be really, really happy. That's coming soon. Jai, you should provide a little bit of an update on that side. I know you've been running that project as well. So that is something that's literally just around the corner, like next, like maybe within a week or two, right? Anyway, I'll let Jai provide an update on that and what we went through there. And so yeah, that's the sort of high level update. Now to really drill into your question, Dan, as far as C1, I know that it's been sort of quite quiet on the C1 front. Now, I guess, we have effectively been in soft launch for it. It's just really live on our platform. We've gone through a bit of an evolution and also transition there, as far as the backing. So, as everyone knows, we have worked with a partner on that, and at the same time have navigated sort of regulatory changes that have come through, GSR, Clarity Act, these kind of things, and other regulatory changes around the world. So what we've done, and also, by the way, we have all the audit attestations coming through. I know that they've a bit late. They've just got delayed at the auditor side due to transition, like basically a transition, like corporate restructuring and a transition. And it's absolutely corporate restructuring that's the most important thing, of some asset reserve, on the asset reserve side to actually be Genius Act compliant. And it's all getting folded into actually a US, a US structure, which is regulated. So it's a regulated US structure. It's going to basically provide the highest level of security and transparency there, because it's embedded within the US regulatory structure. So we'll have the January and February attestations being released shortly. And then from March, it all points actually to the new structure, the new sort of asset reserve structure, which is within that US regulatory entity, you could call it, or structure. So that's what's coming. With that, then, once we sort of catch up there, we do the sort of a bit of an unveiling of this whole new structure. Then we push the button, we get rolling through DeFi markets, and pump out additional liquidity around it all, and everything like that. So it's just been worked on. Yes, there've been a few delays, but it's all positive sort of workings behind the scenes. So that's really it. That brings you sort of up to date, Dan, just from a high level on that, without boring everyone to death with splitting hairs with all the nuances around that.
Yeah, a lot to unpack there. Before we continue with the questions, there are a few things that that you pointed out that I want to kind of go back to. I mean, clearly, Kinesis is growing and transitioning from just a precious metals crypto exchange to something much larger, really a real world asset exchange. And with what you've done with Currency One, with all the fiat pairs, I initially saw that as, now the spreads being so tight, you can do forex trading between those pairs, because of the spreads, and it being on the Stellar chain hard fork. It's really inexpensive to go back and forth between. So that's fascinating. And not only that, not only have you added a forex aspect to the KMS, you're bringing online a commodities trading desk for anybody to trade anything. I don't know what 25 pairs they are, but I'm assuming oil's on there, maybe uranium. I don't know. You guys will reveal that in time. But people can now bring their assets into the KMS and have a full exposure to real world assets that they would have to go through a normal brokerage house. They can just do that through the KMS now. Will those tokens be DeFi eventually?
They certainly will be. And you are touching on something which I'm really excited, and everyone should get sort of geared up and excited about, because what this actually means is, yes, we are building out a global commodity trading house. And we've built out the model via our gold and silver side. So, we've been in the gold and silver markets for quite some time, call it 16 years, 17 years. We've built out a lot of infrastructure network around the world for actually trading the stuff. The same model can be taken into other physical commodities. So the business plan associated with this is to effectively build out like a next generation, like Glencore, Trafigura, incorporating, digital assets, incorporating blockchain tokens. And taking that to both retail markets and institutional markets. What tokens do in institutional markets is actually profound. It's a real asset that that institutions can move, that can put it on their balance sheet. It has defined specifications. Like in institutional markets, and I see this every day now because I'm very entrenched on the institutional side, that everyone's trying, like lots of people have different assets all around the world. They're bespoke, they're unique. People are trying to sort of ascertain value, trying to understand the actual different assets, trying to do this and that. So what tokens do in actually sort of, building out what clear, and it might be, certain wider specifications like than what you might actually find on commodity exchanges around the world, but at least they're sort of known, like, and actually building out liquidity for them, bringing in market participants for them as well, and like effectively building out these markets. We're creating markets here. Then it becomes collateral. It becomes an asset which can be utilized, can be understood. And with that, it has enormous institutional benefits and value. But from a retail investor standpoint, yes, right there on your screen, you can gain exposure to these different assets which provide portfolio diversification. They're always moving, right? You might be able to grab hold of a commodity super cycle, for example, diversify your portfolio across the mix, but there might be ones that are hotter one day than there are the next day. So they're big. What this actually, like, a great benefit, and as far as what it brings to, say, the KMS and the fee pool and that sort of thing, is like there's like the commodities are always moving. Currencies are moving to a lesser extent, like they're supposed to be more stable. Of course, we know what current fiat currencies are doing at the moment as far as the debasing and devaluing of fiat. But they move around as well. And yes, like the system will evolve to actually have, like trading screens where people can, set up their trading screens to be able to, basically cross different currencies against each other, trade on that basis, even cross different commodities against each other, obviously cross different commodities against other fiat currencies and against gold and silver and, chart it and all that kind of stuff. So you can start to see the picture as far as how we're carving out our niche in the space, leading, sound money, real world asset-backed digital currency provider in the space.
I was just going to say, I was going to just augment just quickly on what Tom is proposing here. We all know we come from a pedigree of physical trading of gold and silver. This is how we started. And this tokenization of these additional commodities is no different from that background. It has a physical element to it, which is, in our expertise. And that will be an important part as the confidence in dealing with institutions and structuring these tokens with the physical elements that we will bring as an organization. So they're combined. The physical and the tokenization is combined, and that's a very powerful thing. It hasn't been done in the real world asset space, and we are primed and experienced ones to be able to lead that effort.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the most exciting parts about what's coming with Kinesis. And I'll be remiss not to point out what you said in your overview, Tom, about higher yields if people decided to lock up their. Is it only gold and silver that'll provide these yields?
No, it'll be the other digital assets within the system as well. It's a pledging, so to speak. So they still maintain exposure to it. They still maintain ownership, but it's a pledging for a certain period of time they choose, and there'll be different yield rates associated with that. What it does, it allows utilization of the asset in a way that we can actually provide the yield to the user. So that is what we're able to do there. Obviously, for KAU and KAJ, it's very defined specifications, bars in Vault, bars or coins in Vault. And, but what this will allow us to do is offer an enhanced yield. And it will be a very impressive enhanced yield because, we know, like we know what we make out of the space. So, yeah, that's it.
And you mentioned that you guys are buying and selling gold, and that's where this yield's coming from. People around the forums, they always ask, where is Kinesis getting all this money? Where are they getting the assets to provide yields? One, there's the fees, but I love the fact that you guys are going to be integrating the other part of the business and providing yields with this new pledging program to show people, like, look, Kinesis isn't just the exchange; they're a much broader company, and I think that this transition, going and sharing the profits with these yields, is gonna be fantastic for people to realize. Well, Kinesis is a lot bigger than they think that it is.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So, with this new program, I think a lot of people will want to join in and open up accounts to be exposed to all these different yields and assets. And going back to the banking question, there are some people in the EU that the new named accounts, it's not working as smoothly yet. I'm not sure if you touched on why the U.S. clients had to change the banking information. And will others have to have? What is the banking relationship with other jurisdictions, like in Australia and the UK, with those banking partnerships? What will people have to do with these you named accounts?
There's a few things to unpack there. Let's start quickly with the European named account SEPA transfers. We have caught wind of some challenges. I'm actually currently doing a full UI UX review on that as we speak, but with everything said and done, that is functional and operational. So we're just looking into the exact user experience to see if we can actually hone that, refine it, and potentially bring down the friction. And I'm just trying to investigate a little bit around that at the moment. The idea with the named account is it is an API connector. You are spinning up a named account with a banking service provider, and connecting systems is always challenging. And with the US, we were aiming to do the same thing and still are. And there's a lot of challenges with bringing on banking. And I want to caveat this whole banking discussion with a lot of exchanges don't have bank accounts. They use third-party providers where they exchange crypto assets. They use things like MoonPay. They use things like Banksa, which we have on our platform. We had Paybus. We have, even Banksa have just released about a PayPal function for the US now. We're opening up US Banksa payments. But the banking component itself is really challenging for the crypto industry. And the fact that we do have banking options is already a step forward. And so I just, you can utilize crypto deposits to bypass the banking function. And there is a network of exchanges, and there are other ways to get money into Kinesis other than banking. And people should look for the cheapest and easiest route. But with that said, we do and continue to provide banking and on-ramps, and we want to get better and better and better. Global coverage is difficult, but the US is finally coming online. So we have a number of relationships now. Some of them, as we get rolling, they fall over before they even mature for a number of different reasons. And that generally is to do with evolving regulation. You start and it's okay. And by the time you get towards the end of the development, it's fallen over because of a change somewhere. But we're in a really good space. We are looking to bring on named accounts in the US, which would bring a Cayman US option available for our users in very short order. It's very mature now, and it's pretty solid. And to back that up, we have 3 others. They are longer, they are more complex, but some of them are named accounts and some of them aren't. They're simply just providing ACH and SWIFT details. Some of them are named accounts, so we'll have a broad option. We've got the banks are expanding out, which will provide PayPal and US debit card, Visa, and all of the acquiring functions that people are looking for. So that's kind of where we're at. When it comes to places like Australia, Australia makes it extremely challenging for crypto. I would say utilize crypto platforms, utilize other mechanisms for where you can get the money in. We've got so many assets on the exchange, you can transfer in instantly and straight onto the exchange and do a conversion straight into KAU. It really is the way when you're in a region where banking is not supported. But with the US, it really does need to be a solidly supported region because we've got a large user base, but we've also got the debit card. And, that's currently in beta, and we can touch on that shortly. But the idea is to have a full end-to-end experience that is seamless. So we are putting a lot of effort into getting the US banking up and running for that very reason.
Excellent. And just a quick follow-up, Jai. Which jurisdictions are going to have name counts? The US, UK, all of Europe? Any other jurisdictions?
So the UK, that's it for now. There are others, right? I don't want to get too far down the track because I might say something here, and it's not a now thing, and it might change by the next time we come on. So I am working on many more regions. We are as a team, and there are others, key locations, and I'll give them more of an update when they come to fruition. But I'm definitely working on it.
And how about our neighbors to the north in Canada? Is that one jurisdiction, or that's in the future?
It is. I can tell you, yes, it is. It's a functional reality, and there is a pathway forwards to that, and that's been high on my list.
To add on to what Jai was saying as well, so like licensing and the regulatory side is a big thing as far as banking. Now, it's a curse and blessing at the same time. But on the banking side, it's a little bit of a curse because you have banking and payment organizations that have positioned themselves in the crypto space, right? But they're not necessarily positioned in the precious metal space. And we sort of touch both spaces, and they are considered like high risk sectors. And the banks need to like treat them as such, and there can be things like enhanced due diligence and enhanced KYC that's required for users and stuff like that. So we navigate all of these challenges from a platform perspective. But as I mentioned earlier, we've now made some corporate maneuverings which really should make it a lot easier for our users going forward. It is sort of pretty major news as far as what we're doing here on the banking side, and I would like to for that to be properly announced once it's all sort of locked down. And but it's really cool stuff that we've been working on there. Yeah.
And just a quick question, yes or no, Tom. The new pledging yields for the different assets, specifically for KAU and KG, is that going to be replacing the current yields for KAU, KG, or is that going to be on top of those yields?
So yeah, there will be a full unveiling as far as how all this works, Dan. But there'll be contribution there'll be additional contribution into the yield pool from this whole sort of dimension that contributes towards those yields. So there'll be added enhancement to the yield pool there, which actually provides added incentive to actually participate in the program. That's what I'll say there.
So it's like super boosting your holders yield. If you don't really use your gold and silver every day for the velocity yield, you can just pledge it, and you'll get your normal KAU yields plus this new revenue that's being contributed to the KMS from your gold and silver trades, right?
Yep, there'll be holders yield and obviously the other yields which benefit from the fee pool there, like KVT, yes. So
KVT, yes.
Yeah. It's disruptive, and I'm sure there'll be the naysayers out there that are skeptical or doubt it or whatever else. But I mean, it's you know, we'll think of all different ways in which we can be transparent as far as it is concerned. You know, we do deal in physical trading of assets, and with that comes, you know, profits as well. And you know, the average person on the street, like, it's these things are not accessible to them.
No, absolutely. And I think that's going to be very exciting and going to bring a lot of people into the KMS. You know, and recently there was a phishing attack where some bad actors put up fake KMS login sites and they were stealing the login information. And we've noticed that now when you withdraw or when you're receiving funds, you need to put your name. Now I have 2 codes you have to put in. After that, what is being put in place to improve that user experience, like that just recently happened? I know that there was some compliance KYC additions, but what really contributed to that?
Yeah, there's a number of different things that you're touching on there. So there are regulatory updates as well, like there's something called the travel rule and everything like that need to be incorporated into our systems, where, you know, you actually have to know who you're actually both sending and receiving the actual digital metals from. That translates into, you know, all the enhancements behind the scenes. We've done through a highly robust, I would say, desktop inspection by SEMA, you know, recently, and there's been, you know, back-end wallet enhancements and systems upgrades and that sort of thing, and that might have translated into, you know, some delays which have been seen, you know, back in the past, but yeah, so there's that side, and obviously, you know, we've incorporated enhanced security, like, you know, 3-factor authentication now, and there's actually some additional security enhancements coming as well. It's really sad about this, you know, phishing thing, and unfortunately we did have a couple of victims who were doing Google searches for Kinesis login and landing on a basically a phishing website and fall victim to that. That is, like, really unfortunate, and we have you know, moved quickly to increase basically, you know, all our security as far as that's concerned. But at the end of the day, they are guardrails. We need people to really be engaged with what they're doing, like with their money online. You always need to be careful, right? Like, I mean, I guess it's like sort of, you know, driving the car. At the end of the day, there can be traffic signs, there can be guardrails as you drive, but, you know, and, you know, you make a choice to follow those or not. And if you don't follow them, you're more likely to have an accident. So we need everyone to be really on the ball with regards to the digital assets. Like, please don't be Google searching like Kinesis login. That is a major recipe for disaster. You need to have, like, the Kinesis website bookmarked, or actually be directly punching it into your browser and that sort of thing. We'll continue to, you know, make it as many guardrails as possible, so people, you know, we'll make it as impossible as possible, like as impossible as possible to for people to, you know, not make mistakes. But there's always anyone can fall victim to a phishing a campaign. Can be emails going out sort of phishing for your login details. There can be websites set up and that sort of thing. And look, we are extremely sympathetic towards anyone who lost some funds over that, and we will always do our best. But, like, please do not be Google searching or you know, falling for, you know, fraudulent emails or people reaching out to you on Telegram, like asking for your login details, that sort of thing. We will never, you know, we don't ask for login details and that sort of thing for that very purpose. So Yeah, we'll make it as I guess dummy friendly as possible, but we need people to be well educated, and we've got a whole educational section on our website, which really makes people, I guess, aware of the risks associated with this, and we'll continue to educate as best as what we can now.
So one big launch that came out recently was the beta program for the debit card, the virtual debit card. Several of us, I think I was told about 200 people are on the beta. And can you give us some updates on what's going on there? How is it working out? I know that there is Google. Is it Google Pay? I'm an Apple guy. I know Apple Pay hasn't come out. Can you give us an update on what's going on with the beta program and when everybody can expect to start using the virtual debit card?
Yes, certainly. So I just want to again remind people that there are two sort of rollouts with the beta. There's the US and then there's Latin America. So we've actually got 30 country coverage with our program, which is exciting. It offers a lot of opportunity for us and ties into some of the relationships you might see happening around exchange listings and different partnerships across Latin America. Things are sort of lining up, and the idea is for us to complete that robust end-to-end service and then tail in with a lot of partnerships as well that can piggyback into what we can provide. So the beta was in phase one. Like, there's a 2-phase beta approach for the US. Phase one was really getting that initial beta launched, getting a few key users on, then sort of expanding it up. It was definitely like 50 people. We couldn't go further than that, and we had to see how everything worked with all of our systems and operations. And I'd like to thank everybody that did participate in that phase. I know that you guys are, taking a leap of faith, and you're putting real money on the line, and you're doing transactions, and you're actually transacting and doing things that we're asking. And, we really appreciate your help and the efforts that you've put in. And the feedback has been good, and it's gotten better and better. So I am happy to announce that, there was a lot of back-end stuff going on while all that was happening. And we now have a good rhythm and flow with all of our partner and tech stack. And we now have approval to expand that beta into phase two. And phase two will be less manual and more automated. And what comes with phase two is Google Pay. So Google Pay will basically end up with a full automated process of what we call in-app provisioning, whereby you go to your app, you click add to Google Pay, it pulls the information off, and boom, it's a one-click done. And that will tokenize your card so that you can use that via your phone using Google Pay. That is what is unlocking the second phase beta for us, getting all that done. And that's happening this week. It's getting pushed out now. And then we'll expand the beta up to more and more hundreds of people. So a lot more people will start to get invited in, but it will be less, test this, test that, manual this, manual that, and more just start using the card. It's working really smoothly, and we'll monitor from there. And then as part of phase two, we will then bring in the Apple Pay, again, with in-app provisioning and a thing called Click to Pay. And you can also use the NFC on the card when the physical cards come to read the card, and it adds it to Apple Pay as well. So you have to be live for a certain amount of time, and there are all these rules to Apple. So we can't just go, here's Apple Pay from day dot, but the second one thing unlocks, we're on it. And then we do the next phase. And so that's what's happening with phase two. And the other really exciting part is physical card as well is coming. So we are creating redundancy. I know there are some app store issues that we have. Unfortunately, it's just part of the game. If you touch crypto, you cannot be everywhere on the Apple Store and the Google Store, and there's differences, and some people might feel disadvantaged in their region, but it's not anything to do with us, and it is very much to do with the app stores themselves governing and creating their own rules above and beyond a regulator. It's just nothing we can do about it. However, we do have some really good solutions. So in the US, we'll be covered on the Apple Pay side. we are going to allow APK file downloads for existing users in the US that are on an Android device. You'll be able to get a trusted download direct from source from us. You'll be able to get the updates. And when we do an update, you'll be able to get a secure direct upload of the app to your phone. Users will click allow app from an unknown source. You'll have to make that step. It will give you a warning. Of course it will. But the app itself is being cleaned in the Google systems, and we're giving you the same file as we would for Google, right? So, and we are going to make those APK files downloadable on our website as well for new users that want to get access. So our coverage in the US and the ability to have Google and Apple Pay will unlock in this phase 2 beta, which is really, really exciting. We will increase the limits as we go as well for individuals. We have the ability to pull things back and raise things up. And I know we have a lot of bespoke clientele, and we've also got clients that use it for different purposes. So we do have the ability to tailor limits and solutions that can fit our audience, and particularly, our higher net worth individuals that have different needs. So we can, on a case-by-case basis as well, provide, that white label service. So that's what's happening. And from there, I just want to remind people as well, we've got the 2% cashback, up to $2,000 in spending paid every month in gold, which ends up, being, that gold that comes into your account actually earns a yield, and it's compounding. So the reward system is, you can see some reward systems out there that say earn 10% back and earn 20% and earn this and that. And trust me, our team has analyzed every card program out there and remove the fluff and get into the terms and conditions of card programs in the world. And we've gone through the terms and conditions of them all. We are a leading reward program. It's an excellent product. Fees, everything. I mean, the board, the decisions, Tom and his decision-making process as well, to prioritize customer experience and frictionless payments over profit, right? Like to keep the fees as lean as they possibly could be, has been done and was done really, really well. And, the card program itself is just going to be, one of the better ones out there. And I do want to also say from there in the beta, we will then start expanding into Latin America. So the 3 on our list are Brazil, Argentina, and Mexico. Okay, they're the 3 key regions we're going to start focusing on. Now, you notice we've got obviously the Brazilian real stablecoin. We've also got a Brazilian exchange relationship. We've also got a card in Brazil. So if you start putting 1, 2, and 3 together, you can start to see how the ecosystem can support each other. And on-ramps, the Brazilian real, a Latin American program. So there's some really good real-world testing, functional, live, real partnership, real volume clients that will start to benefit from what we're doing. And then that will start to, that use case will start to replicate itself throughout Argentina, Mexico, and then as we expand through Latin America. So that's the card beta of where it's at. We got to get that out the road. I was asked some questions from another partner. What about this country? What about that country? Look, we got to go. We can only take it step by step. We can't boil the ocean, but we do have a good strategic, we have a good strategic rollout process happening in these regions. A couple of things that we are turning on just to back it up with I think there was a question around the UK FCA stuff. That's almost done. And then with the UK FCA stuff that we've been working on with their approved partner, it unlocks UK banking, it unlocks UK marketing, and it unlocks the ability for us to launch a card in the UK. So they're the kind of post this beta, that's where we're thinking is next. And our program that we have is a global program. So we can open up regions, and we just have to be very selective on where. So anyway, that's the wrap. Hopefully that gives people a good sort of picture on what's going on and what we're doing.
Yeah, no, that's super exciting, Tom.
Yeah, I was just going to add one thing to what Jai was talking about there with regards to the card rewards program. Obviously, it's effectively 3% cashback, 2% going directly to the user or consumer, and 1% going into the fee pool, right? So there's that contribution going into the fee pool. And just to drill into that dimension a little bit, we have an internal program going to take, which the project's basically KVT 10,000. So it's to take the KVT to 10,000. There's a whole roadmap and rollout sequence to it. Of course, we can't guarantee it. So don't misconstrue my words here. It's a project that we have internally to basically, walk backwards, work backwards from, that KVT 10,000 point. What do we need to do? And, so we're drilling on all those different things. And, but I want KVT holders to actually understand that, like, the KVT is in focus, right? And I think with what is coming, and people are going to start seeing some pretty big things. Like, I could be here, like, all amped up and getting excited. Guys, you're going to start seeing, like the KAU circulation shoot up. We've got all kinds of partnership deals coming online, big institutional ones, IRAs, blah, 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 blah. Like, could go on like that. Like, really, we could. Like, we want to diligently answer the community's questions and concerns and everything like that. But there's like a tremendous amount of stuff going on. There's IRAs involved. There's institutional counterparts. You are going to start seeing some major movements in the circulation figures, then translating into, volume figures there as well, like institutional support coming in. It's people are going to start saying, what's up, like, imminently, because, and with that, like, I don't know how many more KVTs are sort of out there in weak hands. Let's put it that way, because I know that we've bought a lot back. It's just going to be, I think, all it's going to take is for like a realization process as we sort of start to unveil certain dimensions that we've been working on, and then there's just where the KVTs for sale. That's what I'll say there.
Yeah, excellent. And and I think with goal for $10,000 KVTs, and with the beta program, that's going to bring a lot of velocity, especially with the new minting. I think recently there was about 500,000 KAU in addition. That brings up a question from people in the forum in our community about the market maker spreads and liquidity. With people using the debit cards, is there enough liquidity right now to process all those transactions? And then there has been recently, with the new C1 suite being launched, it's phenomenal spreads on the weekdays, but on the weekends, we're seeing sometimes spreads of 30% or more. Are there any plans for the market maker to add more liquidity so those spreads decrease on the weekends? And is there going to be enough liquidity as you roll out the beta program and it goes to the full public to cover? Because for those that aren't in the beta program, you can pick up to 5 currencies to use in order for the debit card. So you can do KAU, KAG, and to go through. Will there be enough liquidity with the market makers?
Yeah. So look, let me just answer something, and guys, like, some of this is for your information. There was the transition to C1, and I almost fell off my chair when I heard and saw about those spreads, and we've really drilled in there, and you don't have those spreads. There's 2 or 3% spreads in it. But there was a situation where actually our head of market making, we've got a market making team, he had a major health event and was, rushed to hospital in a coma. So during that time, a little bit might have formed by Vaultside and his team, might have been, just playing generally conservative, but we're all over it. There was a transition as far as, to C1 and we're doing a full review on things at the moment, but those weekend spreads, they're not realistic. But I also want people to understand that there isn't a market really for gold on the weekends. And if you're taking positions against someone, they're really taking the risk of that position, because they can't offload the risk onto a derivatives market or something like that, right? Because they have to hold it. So you've got wars underway, you've got, a lot of posturing and jawboning, as they call it, like with rhetoric that happens, or, cities getting rained with missiles. So someone's got to hold the risk of that position. If it's our market maker, then, it's our market maker, and there is a cost. So, 2-3% is a good cost to actually, have that kind of exposure over the weekend. Otherwise, you can just utilize fiat, I guess. But for gold and silver, there is like price risk associated, and people got to understand that. As far as, I don't know how the 30% thing happened, but I suspect that coincided with a major health event from head of market making.
Okay. And then a quick update about Indonesia. Has there been any number changes, any challenges, any new initiatives going on in Indonesia?
Yeah, hi, I'll take that one, Tom. And I'll fold it into the more broader public-private partnership piece. So Indonesia, look, it's been challenges and fits and starts since the beginning. It's never been a technical issue. There's great apps that are in various partnerships across Indonesia. There's some bottlenecks that have arisen. There's plenty of banks that, for example, have integrated for on-ramps so people can get money in. Those same banks up until recently have not been the settlement bank on the going back out. And there's only been one settlement bank. And so that has created a bottleneck, and people were uncomfortable going in, but then it's hard to get out, etc. So that's now been rectified, where a couple of the other banks are now becoming settlement banks, and so that's good news. The better news and more prominent update for everybody is there is a large pension fund, and the pension fund, it's a government-owned pension fund in Indonesia that solely caters to pilgrims traveling to Mecca for the Hajj and whatnot. And that government pension fund has $7 billion under management for that purpose. We've been in discussions with them together with our Indonesian partners. We are now in the stage of forming the commercial agreement with them. You recall, we have this Gold to Mecca product built into several of these Indonesian apps, where those pilgrims that need to go to Mecca at least once in their lifetime, they use KAU Gold for savings, and they build it up over time. It's integrated with the government-approved travel agency, so once you have enough KAU in your account, you can pick the travel integrated into the apps of the hotel package and the air package and the all of that is already integrated in. This partnership with the pension fund that supports all of those, because everybody who goes to Mecca has to register with this government entity, now becomes the focal point for this agreement that we have coming with them. So they will support this Gold to Mecca, because they will have their own app where all these programs that have to register with them will utilize that government app to facilitate savings in KAU and do the whole Gold to Mecca thing. That's only one element. The other exciting element about that partnership is that pension fund with $7 billion under management A new law has been passed in Indonesia where they have to allocate 5% of their assets under management into gold. For stability, there's been fluctuations in the underlying currency and in the bond market there. And so the government decided, no, you have to put 5% of your assets in gold. Because of this infrastructure and agreement that we created with them, where things are going to flow through them, through the Gold to Mecca program, they will utilize that platform and KAU to, for a substantial portion of that 5% automatic. So that's a big number, as you can do the math. So that's the exciting piece there. That is in partnership with NU, the big social organization that also supports their members going to Mecca. All those NU members have to go through this government agency. It's called BPKH, and so Indonesia is going to be on the upswing on the basis of those couple initiatives. So we're excited about that, and that's coming on in this coming quarter. Just at a broader part of the PPP, so just to round that out, Tom had touched on the commercial terms that we finalized with the group in the country in Latin America. And just to give context a little bit on that, because it's with the central bank, it's a quasi-central bank. It's the national bank. It's also a commercial bank, but it's also the central bank. They are the touch point for all other banks and the monetary authority, as Tom mentioned. But one of the things that they do, rather than having to build this up it's a national program, of course, because it's through the central bank. But one of the touch points that they have is all government employees are paid by this bank through the central bank. And there's thousands of employees. They've already committed that all federal employees, government employees, will be paid in the gold and silver tokens. So there's an automatic, and those are already, again, the streamlining is huge, right? Because these are already customers of the bank. We don't have to go through KYC and onboarding. They're already grandfathered because they're already part of the bank. So they automatically get onboarded. They're automatically going to be part of the ecosystem to get paid in the gold and silver tokens. And then it just steamrolls from there because it's a national program. On other efforts, as Tom mentioned, that would open the doors elsewhere in that region and globally. I'm going to ask Jai to chime in a little bit about what that might mean for Asia, given our recent vast licensing structure, and how that might assist us in other areas that we've done a lot of work on these PPPs. Some of them are more challenging than others from a regulatory standpoint, but we're close on a couple. And perhaps, Jai, do you want to just touch base on what you've experienced in Asia and what that might mean?
Yeah, thanks, Eric. So around the Southeast Asia region, so obviously Southeast Asia is very connected. There's a lot of cross-border activity going on all over the place. Yeah, I've been working on a certain Southeast Asian country. We do hold a license out there, and the challenge has been to be able to run multi-jurisdictional processes. So we've been hard at work figuring out how to do that well, and I think we've recently had a really good breakthrough. And that breakthrough will translate into us being able to open up this licensed Southeast Asian country. And there is a very heavily engaged crypto audience in Southeast Asia. Digital payments are massive. It is more adoptive of cryptocurrency than most places in the world, in fact. So there's a lot of transactional volume and a lot of attention in Southeast Asia around digital assets, particularly gold. They love the gold and they love the precious metals, and they understand gold. So we're getting a lot of a lot of good traction. Now we're fully ready to go. We've a last thing to execute in that department around the reg, and then once we're through that, we should be able to bring on that Southeast Asian country. But more importantly, the model that we've created serves us well to now start replicating all that work we did for that one country into others a lot easier. It's not like we have to start this whole process again. We're wiser. We know how to, we know how it all comes together. And most importantly, our infrastructure and the way it communicates with SEMA, with the Cayman entity, has kind of been figured out. So it'll unlock more and more. It'll unlock more of Southeast Asia for us, and it will unlock more of Latin America for us as well.
Just, talking more broadly about these public-private partnerships, and one thing I would say is, we have done a lot of work on Indonesia, and, has been a bit of a slow-moving dinosaur in some respects, certainly, as far as volume coming through and that sort of thing. But we chip away at it, and there's breakthroughs coming through, as mentioned with the pension fund, and one breakthrough will lead to another breakthrough, which will lead to another breakthrough, and when looking at the Indonesian project, you can sort of really see that there will be like major breakthroughs, and it will properly come online, and our position there as a self-regulated organization, an SIO, it's highly valuable, basically position in license that we have there. It's the same thing as what the stock exchange has and what their commodity exchange has as well. You're the only one obviously in the precious metal space there. That is going to basically, we're positioned well for the future, let's put it that way. But the other thing that I'll add there is the fact that we've actually done a public-private partnership, and with the fourth most populous nation on earth, that's something that doesn't go away. It can be leveraged. So, it brought comfort and confidence into, what we've done now in Latin America, and there's other Latin American jurisdictions and other, smaller jurisdictions that might be banking and financial centers that we're chipping away at, and not just chipping away, that we have left in the roadmap. And they're looking good. And, there's the Asian piece that Jai can chime in on, because we've done a lot of work there, and there's different nuances to each partnership. It comes down to, like server location and data and KYC and how the whole transaction cycle may work. And I don't want to underestimate that, because there's a major things that we need to work through. Some projects are lighter lifts than others, and other projects are majorly heavy lifts. The one that we've been working through in Latin Asia is quite a major heavy lift, but it's worth it. So the whole project development of that has been underway now for some time. Even though it's not announced and everything like that, the project's been underway, and that will come through, and that'll be something very powerful.
In regards to Currency One, there's other companies like Chainlink that's moving towards proof of reserves. A lot of assets are moving to proof of reserves. Are there any plans for Currency One to move towards proof of reserves and replacing attestations and audits?
Yeah, so I think I touched on initially at the beginning of this chat that there is a highly robust, whole new sort of reserve regulated structure that's coming. Genius Act is being focused on. We are moving towards Genius Act compliance. Proof of reserve is, yes, that is definitely factoring the equation. In fact, we are linked up now with Chainlink, and we'll be looking for continual enhancements to that as far as how that actually operates, and be it API connectivity and all this kind of stuff. So the enhancements to that coming through, and an enhanced attestation system. There's there's new auditors that are coming into play and that sort of thing. But I think, it's an improvement from where Currency One is at. There is a partner involved. There's a whole actually a regulated structure involved there. With what we're doing on the commodity coin side, that is us, right? And that will, that will be robust from our perspective. We also have some other things coming in, call it the stablecoin space as well, which really touches penetrates all the way into the institutional markets, as I touched on. There might be, as I've spoken about before, with this multi-asset backed digital currency, which is, I think, of profound nature. That is something there we've had to, navigate the regulatory side as far as that is concerned, solving a lot of problems there. But there's an expanded stable coin product suite that will be coming as well, that provides optionality to users, and there's robust stuff going on there and other partners, and there's a lot of exciting stuff that's coming down the way. I want to be talking about what we're sort of facing immediately, and some of the stuff is soon, very soon, but understand that we are very focused on the space. We're focused on being leaders in the space. We're focused on carving out that niche, as I spoke about before, and won't settle with being second. We need to be number one, and so we're pulling out the sort of the mongrel inside and kicking whoever we need to kick, and making it happen. I'm setting aside my sort of my Zen mindset to really make this happen in a forceful nature. So it's coming. It's coming in as far as the attestations, proof of reserve, and how important it is. It plugs into the whole DeFi side, and that is squarely within our sights to really make happen in a big way.
Excellent. And will the proof of reserves be for all the assets in the KMS, or is it only going to be for the real world assets?
So no, it'll, like as we move forward, there'll be proof of reserves for exchange assets and that sort of thing. It's one step at a time. These are not small things to achieve, so it's like part of the project plan. And so that it'll all be incorporated to build out basically a trust, the most sort of trustful environment that we can build out.
All right. There was recently a lot of excitement in some of the forums and chats out there, because there was a huge increase in KAU, or 500,000 KAU was added last week via EPD. Can you comment on this and tell us, what is that going to be a trend that's going to be happening?
Yes, sure. So that's related to a commercial deal. That's just the start of what's coming through. I had touched on some of those things happening over the next while, and Jai's across some of it as well, like pertaining to the US IRA space, where we envisage even larger transactions coming through, hundreds of millions of dollars. So it all takes time. It does all take time, obviously, to get for people to be moving around, like tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. They have to step through a highly robust sort of due diligence process, like multiple lawyers involved and assurances and all that kind of stuff, right? So yes, it's a commercial deal, institutional commercial deal. There's more, and I prefer to, instead of, talking about these things, and you just let the data sort of tell the tale. So, stay tuned, keep your eyes out, but, like I said, there'll be movement. And I think there'll be a bit of a dawn. So that's what I'll say on there. And as far as exchange listings and that sort of thing, that's one for Jai.
Excellent. And you mentioned IRAs. So the 500K is gonna, does that mean we're going to have IRAs being able to roll over into Kinesis?
Yeah, there is a process that has been figured out where you'll be able to do rollovers and new purchases in KAU. And you'll be able to hold that, and you'll be able to earn a yield on that within your IRA structure. So we've got a compliant model. We have a partner, and we have executed on test transactions. There is real money out there right now doing this and going through compliance. And we're at the end of that line, and we're about to ramp things up big time. So that's happening.
Oh, that's huge. Any idea when that's going to be rolling out to the entire community?
Soon. Yeah, with our partner, the option will be there, and very, very soon. Like I say, we're at the end of that tunnel now, and we're ramping up. We're ready to gear up and start pushing it in a big way.
Why would anybody go anywhere else? We're going to have bank accounts. We're going to have debit cards. We're going to have IRAs. We're going to trade commodities, Forex trading. Like everything is going to be in Kinesis. Why go anywhere else at this point?
Yeah. Well, imagine if you could get a mortgage with your gold as well.
Yeah, that'd be huge. Is that a hint?
Yeah. Stay tuned.
Personal finance and business finance options as well. It's all coming.
This is beautiful. I love the direction that that you guys are going for the whole community and really just the world. The vision that you guys really started, and then you guys have been launching on a bunch of different exchanges: Brazil, Mexi, right? Is it Mexi? What other are there other rollouts happening? Larger exchanges, Binance, maybe.
Yeah, no. So absolutely, we're now on obviously Bitmart, Amarex, Mexi with KAG, Ascendex launched, and we definitely are. We're going to keep going. So we have Mercado Bitcoin that's coming. They're Brazil's largest exchange. We've got both KAU and KAG coming on in Mercado in Brazil, as I mentioned earlier, with the Latin American exchange and card component. We have KAU rolling out on Mexi very shortly. The KAG launched, last week, and the Mexi team are great to work with, and they're very happy with us as a client and how we operate. And the KAU is going to be next. That's confirmed. And then we have several others, and we are talking about. Mexi is a top 10 in the world, and we have a top 9, and we're working our way through. And there is a strategy with it all. You don't just knock on Binance's door, or you even think about whether or not that is the right move. But we do have a strategy, and there are certain exchanges that we chose to unlock others, which will unlock others, which will unlock others, and all of them have been strategically selected. And there is a process of rolling out, and we're currently, I would say, a halfway through that process with the next one. So there's a lot more to come there. And it'll keep growing from there.
I'll quickly chime in just on that. The more recent exchange listings that have been done through like the new KAU and KAG EIC20 tokens. So that's the way we can actually get it out on the new exchanges. And going into the DeFi markets, that's what we need as well. Like there's these public chains. These wallets are integrated through all the major wallet systems of the world and platforms of the world. So it does change the paradigm for KAU and KAG instead of being like the bespoke, unique platform-centric product to being decentralized, to being more widely distributed. So it's a major thing. We're just finalizing some, signal-related stuff and regulatory stuff to turn that on the KMS, and then that interchangeability and ability to basically send and receive and ERC20 on the KMS will be there as well. And so that is something. So that then actually creates the corridor for holders of the ERC20 tokens back to the KMS, right? So as we go out on these other exchanges, like what's the benefit to KBT holders? What's the benefit to the yield pool? Well, it's multifaceted. Yes, it creates the corridor to send the tokens back to get the yield, right? To utilize the platform for that purpose. Not just that, but they might want to use the debit card. They might want to actually use the currencies as money in different ways with us. In addition, some of these exchange platforms, it's not just, okay, like we're an exchange listing, but there's a more extensive partnership that we've put together. Mercado Bitcoin's one of them, and there was, it's a little bit of a false start with Mercado Bitcoin, just in some regulatory things that they're stepping through, not us, them. Just changes at the central bank level and that sort of thing. This happens on a jurisdictional basis. So the 11th hour, their compliance team actually has stepped in. It's a bit disappointing, but that's a more entwined partnership. So like they've got like 4 million users who are connected to them and that sort of thing. And we're looking at, it's not we're looking, we've been working on a major partnership with them where we provide like the debit card services and for their users, and we provide like that service. So you can sort of start to sort of get a little bit of a picture of, okay, what does it actually mean? Why suddenly, the Kinesis debit cards available to 4 million users based out in an exchange in Brazil. Yes, we have to turn on the Brazilian region, but you start to get a bit of a picture of, okay, what do these partnerships with other exchanges mean? So yeah, I know that there's been not confusion, but perhaps clarity required, like what all this means. And it becomes an on-ramp for both capital and users, and there's cross-pollination of services that can be provided there as well. And just the ability to move funds around the world. Like we can't be everything to everyone as much as what we want to be. So actually plugging our currency into other exchanges is fantastic. I mean, I used an analogy the other day. So, like, I think someone asked me, like, why would you, be sort of focusing or, have this project going where you're listing KAU and KAU and other exchanges. And it's like sort of the equivalent of, a bank, for that matter, issuing its own currency and then having other banks utilizing that bank's currency, right? So it's what's wrong with that? That the other banks offer that other bank's currency to their users, to their customers. So we're effectively doing the same thing. We have developed our own currencies. They're now being offered through other exchanges, and it's all interlinked back to us. So it's only benefits involved. And yes, like with some of these broader partnerships, there might be rev share and that sort of thing involved. That's not the typical model. The typical model is you pay money to these other exchanges to get listings. And we'll be going down that path as we sort of, complete our foundations as well. And we'll have new products listing on our exchange. Like we'll be inheriting different ecosystems and that sort of thing as well. So all this, like, we just keep on opening our doors and broadening our horizons here as we move forward.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you guys have really gone into the DeFi decentralized space. And one thing I want to direct this to Jai. One thing with DeFi tokens and native blockchains, the KAU and KAG are minted on those blockchains. How is it? Can you give an overview of what it's going to look like to reconcile those KAG and KAU tokens? And is it going to be possible to redeem? Is there going to be a redemption process? Are you going to burn those tokens? Can you just get an overview of what the plan is for KAU, KAG on the other native blockchains?
Look, I don't want to unpick too much of the mechanics with all of it, but I will say that DeFi is primarily an Ethereum-driven ecosystem. Ethereum represents the largest chunk of DeFi in the world, and you have players like Solana closely following up behind, and there are also the EVM chains, which are the Ethereum virtual machine sort of spin-offs, but they all work on the same protocol. So for us, being able to just have native ERC or an ERC version of KAU, like we do, is functional enough. And as Tom mentioned earlier, you're always going to have to come back into the Kinesis ecosystem to generate yield or to produce redemptions or anything like that. So the Kinesis platform acts as a home, a hub for everything. You want to start to do more than what you can do out there, then come and see us and we'll allow you to do that. So that's how we will handle it. All the inflows will come back to us. And as we start to bridge from chain to chain, we look at CCIP, which is a cross-chain interoperability protocol with, say, Chainlink. We can actually bridge into multiple chains, and the same thing happens. Yes, we have to manage it, but ultimately it can come back to the central hub, the home, and for people to do all those extra things that they want to with the token.
No, that's fantastic. I can't wait till we have those bridges that we can bridge to different chains.
It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. Yeah. Gold, I just will say this about the DeFi and the stable that we have. The DeFi is extremely, for those that may not understand it fully in the community, it is massive to have decentralized liquidity pools that you have gold that you can earn and borrow and lend against, and you've got a stable coin that can act as the counterparty to that. So you have a stable coin gold liquidity pools that are large enough to take volume. You've got one of the holy grails of product in the DeFi. You can start to earn yield through DeFi strategy, and then all of our other sort of product offerings that we have, like Tom was discussing about the program of earning yield. These just allow people to act, utilize their assets in different ways. And for DeFi, having a stable asset with backing, it's quite profound. It's quite unheard of, and we're geared up at a level that no other tokenized provider really is at this stage. So we've got a really good opportunity to, make a real impact in the DeFi community.
No, that's super exciting. And that's it for all of our questions from the community. I do want to wrap it up with Andy. We've had a lot of things going on with the war. We just had a run up recently. Silver hit $86. Gold got up to $47.50, $47.60. What are you seeing, Andy, with the direction of gold and silver in lieu of what's going on geopolitically, technical, fundamental? What is your analysis?
Well, I think everybody, honestly, let me just start by saying, putting this into context, this has been a 16-year journey for our team. Kinesis has evolved, led the way. Now, when you think about it, and we look at gold and silver for a start off, when we first broke out, when we first brought it into the KMS, gold and silver into the KMS, people had never seen anything like it. The ease of the tightness of spreads, the ability to actually engage in gold and silver in many different forms. And in other words, to create not just wealth protection, but to actually invest and trade. And so along the way, if you remember, along the way, we suddenly found, the bullion banks at that time were all against gold. They were years and years and years of historical, let's just sell gold. We've got the paper markets are so robust and liquid. We can do what we want. Then in 2023, suddenly we become, first tier asset. And all the bullion banks along the way suddenly went long, along with the Bank of International Settlements. So the bullion banks are long. So now we've transited this situation where we had headwinds. Now we've got a tailwind. And I'll use Jeff Curry from Goldman as a perfect example. He used to be the foe of gold and silver. He is now, not only is he engaged in both gold and silver, but he's engaged in what he calls the halo, which is high quality, low obsolescence trade. That is all the real world assets we're talking about. Now, what does Well, let's sit up and think about what we've just been talking about here. What we're talking about is bringing these real assets into the KMS hub and to have them in front of us to trade the crosses and to interact between all of these commodities, real world assets, hard assets that are real assets. And so we can now, not only can we, I mean, if I get on my Bloomberg terminal, it's going to cost me, what, $4,000 a month? I'm not even going to get what I can get on the KMS hub. And so really, people should really sit up and think, hey, look at what's happening. This is almost like ABX, Kinesis. It's almost, to me, like Kinesis 2.0. This is a new start. Well, not a new start, a new phase in the growth on this rollout process. But to kind of answer your question, really, the crosses, and we're talking about the crosses here, when we're talking about the war right now and what does it bring to mind, we all look at the crosses, gold, silver, how do they interact with with oil and the dollar? We only have to look at this. This war kind of brings it right into the front burner, which is, hey, look, initially, when the original war started, we saw gold down at under 4,500, and yet oil was actually lower than now. And so you look at the crosses, you know, hey, and the dollar too, and you look at them and you say, hey, you know what is actually happening is the mechanical correlations that were historically there are evaporating. And it's time for us to look at these crosses and to engage in them and trade in them, because where we really have the opportunity here now to actually to have them on our screen and actually to use that. And so basically, because you only have to look at and I'll just wind up quickly here, but you only have to look at the COMEX, the paper market, quintessential paper market, 800,000 contracts in 2000. You know, I mean, literally just a few years ago. And all of a sudden now we're less than half of that. Where's that open interest gone? It's gone into the physical markets. It is where your wholesalers have gone. It's where your hedgers have gone. It's where the refiners have gone. Why would I play in a paper market when I've got a liquid physical market that I can trade? So, I mean, if you want to drill down, I won't even drill down very much, but just yesterday, we're recording this on Wednesday, and we saw gold coming back down, the oil jumped up, the war is going to start again. And what did we see? We actually saw Shanghai came online, $28 premiums. That stopped gold in its tracks from being sold off because, hey, someone has to actually deliver this. And so you've got the commercials who used to be against gold saying, hey, I've got to deliver this. I'm buying it. So suddenly you're against the momentum. So long term, we've got a change in behavior. We've got an opportunity for gold and silver with a tailwind to rise to where it should be. And no one knows where it should be, except it's a hell of a lot higher from now.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Andy.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that, everyone. Thank you for the participation of Kinesis, the C4SM team, Uchiki, who diligently works the forum and curates questions, and everyone really in the forum who goes out and works on helping users understand these concepts. I'm sure there'll be a ton of follow-up conversations about this episode. And so with that, this episode will be out here shortly in the next few days. You can see it on the Kinesis YouTube channel as well as the C4SM outlets. And again, just thank you again very much for everyone's participation, and we'll see you at the next one.